Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Yarnflakes podcast. My name is Audrey. I am a knitwear designer from the southwest of France, and this is my podcast where I talk about all the knitting projects that I do. I sort of changed very minimal words here and it threw me off. But hi, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're doing well. I have a little episode for you this week, which is full of joyous projects. I have some colorful things to share, and I'm really happy to do so. There are also some construction works just outside my street, so I'm gonna try and record this before it gets too noisy. We are also blessed with the sun, who actually decided to raise today. Thank you. It's like it's only been 6 months, but I have 3 things that I would like to share, so I'm going to start right away. And you can find timestamps to all the different sections of the podcast in the description down below. So if you want to skip anything or find any projects in particular, you can look at that. I also put links to all the things that I talk about, the yarns and the patterns I'm mentioning, as well as links to my social media, my patterns, which are for sale on Ravelry, Payhip and Lovecrafts, and my Patreon page, where you can support my work if you would like to, in exchange for some perks and behind the scenes exclusive content. So, yay! I'm going to start with a new design that I just published and it's a hat. It's a hat design, which I haven't done much of, and this was inspired by the yarn, so it's kind of 50-50 for me. Like, it's not like I have an actual professional design process, right? But sometimes I have an idea and then I'm gonna look for the yarn, and sometimes it's the yarn that like gets me inspired for something. And yeah, I'd say it's rather 50-50, and this time it was the yarn. So it's a yarn from my friend Deborah, which is Les Petites Potions. Again, talking about her every episode, it seems. She's a dyer who lives near me. She has a monthly club. Well, it's not a subscription, but every month, basically, she posts some sort of a picture which will inspire her to create a colorway, a surprise colorway. And I think this year the theme is like flowery things. And basically you see the picture that inspired the colorway, and you can get it on either yarn or fiber in a bunch of different bases. These are other things from Set Club. I can't... Oh my god, directions are hard. But anyway, this was January colorway, and it's called Dorseore. I have looked at this colorway name for so long, so many times, and I just cannot remember it. I think it's Dorseore, I don't know. It's probably a reference to something, but I don't know. I don't know the word. Yeah, you can tell me what it is if you know. I think it's Dorseore. I don't know. Well, it's a beautiful, beautiful colorway. Les Petites Potions is really skilled with speckles, as you can see, and she really has a way to, like, she makes speckles where when you look at them individually, they seem like very saturated, very distinct colors, but they all sort of work together, especially since this is a yak base. So I really like yak bases. This is merino, yak and silk. And basically yak, it's not a white fiber, it's brown, grayish brown, brownish gray. And it gives a really, really cool depth to colors. And it just sort of mutes everything, makes it a bit like tarnished, but at the same time there's a specific sheen to it. It's really, really pretty. And so when I received this skein of yarn, I wanted to cast it on immediately. And I thought, since this was a decay weight and I had one skein, might as well make a hat. I don't make a lot of hats, that's true, but I do think they're nice to have. Like, they're a very satisfying project and easy to gift, and yeah, really fun to make a really pretty skein of yarn work. And so I decided to keep it simple so that the color could work. And so basically you start at the brim here, you work ribbing, 1 by 1 rib, you do what you want, but I did a 1 by 1 rib, and then you have a row here that creates a crease so that you can fold the brim if you want. And then the actual body of the hat is split in half. I'm in a mood like to split things in half. That's like that's all my design aesthetics at the moment. Either it's messy or it's things that are split in half. And so I decided to do basically one side stockinette and one side reverse stockinette. And I really like this because I do like the texture of reverse stockinette, and I think it's so fun to see how the colors sort of work differently. It's really fun. And in between, to separate it, you have a tuck stitch. So it's basically just to slip one yarn over and then you knit it together, which it makes a slightly puffier slip stitch. Basically, it's like a little bit more 3D, and I thought it was nice because it would help people see that tuck stitches can be used on their own in funny ways. So tuck stitches are what constitutes brioche, basically. Very simplifying things, but a tuck stitch, which is that slip stitch with a yarn over and then you knit them together, which is the same result as knitting one below and dropping the thing above. If you do them all over in a ribbing pattern, this is brioche. This is what people refer to as brioche. And it's really fun. And you can do lots of interesting things with it. I am not really inspired with it for now. It might change. But on the contrary, what I really love is using tuck stitches in between other things, basically. You can use them with twisted stitches, with like some sort of tweed patterning. And I think that's really fun because it adds a fun texture and it's much more versatile than like just making a full-on fabric of it, which is what people call brioche. Yeah, so that's it. If you see that it says tuck stitch and you're like, oh, but I'm afraid of brioche, I've never done it, that is not what it is. Basically, it's sort of, I wanted to de-dramatize, I don't know if you can say that in English, but remove some of the fear of tuck stitches, because it's literally just one stitch, and you can see it's at the crown as well. It's what separates the decreases, and yeah, it makes those really fun lines of 3D looking stitches. And yeah, so I'm gonna put it on just to show that I actually do know how to put a hat on. And yeah, what I find really fun with this design is basically you can have the split here in the middle, so you have one side and then the other. And if not, you can put it around your ears and have it positioned the other way. There it is. As if my hair wasn't messy enough on its own. But yeah, this is the hat. And so, as I was making this one, and I thought it was really fun, since it was like such a basic fun design, I thought it would be interesting to have a pattern that is like a double pattern, basically, so that you can use fingering or decay weight yarns. So when I say that, it just means that there are two gauges, basically. one that is typically decay weight and one that is typically fingering weight, but you can use any yarn that gives you that gauge. If you use a thicker yarn, it might make a denser hat. If you use a thinner yarn, you might have something looser, a bit more slouchier. The length of the hat can be whatever you want, if you want it to be slouchier. So yeah, I decided I would make 2 gauges. So you have a 22.5 stitch gauge which is like the decay weight thing, and you also have a 26 stitch gauge, which is the fingering one. And so for my fingering weight sample, I also went to Les Petites Potions, also to her yak base, but this time fingering, because I like fingering hats as well. And she had pre-orders for this pinky marmalade color, which is really, really nice. And again, since this is the yak base, the actual colorway is like a more bright corally pink, but this is like a little bit more muted and really, really nice. So yeah, basically in the pattern you have the instructions for fingering weight and then the instructions for decay weight. And you have 6 sizes, which range from 48 to 60, I think, centimeter finished circumference. And I wanted to provide the 2 gauges so that you can make it with any sort of yarn that you might have. If you have a pretty skein of yarn, it works. So yeah, those are the 2 hats. This is a design called Narvi for the Saturn, Moon, and Nordic mythology thingy. I thought it was fun for a hat. I thought it sounded nicely for the moon. But yeah, this is it. I hope you enjoyed them. I think they're fun, like I said, and really easy, really beginner friendly. Everything is written out for all the different sizes, and yeah, if you do like the design, it is 15% off on Ravelry for the release with the code Narvi. I will put all the details and the links in the description as usual, and yeah, I hope you enjoy them. I think they're so pretty, and like the really yak bases are so beautiful. Yeah, they're really nice. So that's it. I'm gonna move on to my works in progress, and I have a couple I would like to share with you. And the first one, I want to do a status update on my mini advent wrap. So I've been designing a rectangular wrap stole shawl using mini skein from an advent calendar from the same dyer, Les Petites Potions. This was last year's advent, and yeah, basically I'm making a wrap that will work with mini skeins, leftovers. Basically you will only need about 15 grams of each color and 1 bigger skein, or bigger leftover, because I won't use 100 gram. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. And now that's the thing with sharing designs in progress. And I know why designers don't do this a lot, other designers, because I changed my mind. And now I'm like, what if you hate the new idea and you much prefer the other one? It's fine. So let me explain. The idea is to make a rectangular wrap. So, as you can see, I'm changing colors and I'm changing texture every time. So, it's like a sort of a modular thingy, basically. So, I started knitting these. Then I picked up stitches here and knitted this. Then I continued here. And then picked up here and did this. And now I'm here, basically. And there's a range of different textures, like from ribbing things to like this floaty things, some textured stripe. See, this is a half brioche, for example. There's just one tuck stitch, and then the other one is a normal purl stitch on the right side and knit stitch on the other side. And it's like a less fluffy, it's like a half fluffy brioche. And the slip stitch motif, and then now I'm doing this sort of twisted ribbing that is oscillating. And so that's what it looks like at the moment. And my original idea was to do this for the main body of the shawl using 12 mini skeins. So you see I still have 3 left. And then at the end, I wanted to pick up stitches along the long edges of the rectangle and work with the big skein. This was the 100-gram skein of the calendar, and work a lace border. That is no more. Hush with the lace border. It had to be terminated. I just couldn't find something that would work. I also think that for wearability purposes, this has no business being wider, right? If anything, it would be fun to have it even longer. Like, it's not done, but it would make more sense to add points for length. And I couldn't find a motif that worked. Like, I was thinking having something rather traditional, like a Shetland lace, but I wasn't really inspired. And on, I think, my previous episode, I was talking about a different design, which was a triangle shape, and this one I was also thinking making a lace border. And in the comments of this design, someone, and she's going to be mad. Someone suggested, like, well, what if you don't do a lace border? So I'm very sorry, but that other design has a lace border because I found something that I really like. But it just made me think, yeah, I do use lace a lot because I like it, and I like making it different. Like, I like preppy, delicate lace, but I also like making big rustic yarns, woolly things that motifs are a bit more harsh. But yeah, I do have designs with no lace in them, but I do tend to put lace. It's true. And so it just got me thinking, like, she didn't say it as a mean it was just a fun suggestion because I guess she doesn't really like lace. But and I know her, so it's okay. People don't make demands. Sometimes people make demands, but like funny demands, because there's, like, once someone asked me for like kneecaps, which got me slightly confused. So it's either something that, I'm sorry, is a bit absurd, or like, I don't mean no one ever needs kneecaps. It's just you don't go asking strangers to, like, it's not the first thing that comes to mind when you're thinking knitwear design, right? And sometimes it's things that are just like unconnected to me. For example, at some point people wanted like mittens with a double layer basically inside. You know, you can have a mitten and have a double layer inside, and like where I live, this makes no sense. So I really don't have the need for that. So of course some people would have great use for that, but it doesn't make a lot of sense for me. But it's like, I never get mean demands. But sometimes I get mean, like people are never mad about a design, because I think, weirdly enough, on this specific topic, people know it's absurd. Whereas on every other topic, everyone absurd. But so far, I never had weird criticism of a style. Although once I did have someone be really angry that I was using ribbing in a sweater. So there's that. But like, it's not a really common thing. So yeah, just to say, I don't know why I got into that topic, but just to say, it's just funny because in that instance, like, she mentioned, she didn't ask for anything, that's the thing, but she just mentioned that maybe she would have liked her name is Maud, she would have liked the other design better with that lace. And so I listened to her, and it inspired me to not do what she asked for, what she was referring to, but do something just slightly different. Like, you know, when you need something and people don't do the thing, but they do something that's just slightly that, but not really. It's even more annoying than not having it at all. Basically, this is what I'm doing. It just got me thinking that maybe this design could avoid having lace. So it was not the one she was referring to, but, you know, better than nothing. No, the thing is, it got me thinking about, like, does this really need lace? Because why is my hair making a funny curl just here? What is this? I think it's really nice as a just texture celebration, you know? And no lace, just knit pearls, twisted stitches, slip stitches, and like, I think maybe it would be fun to have a design that is just non-lace textures. So yeah, not the one that was targeted by she's like I said, I know who she is. It was not a mean comment, but it's just funny to me that I'm like, you don't want lace? Well, there's gonna be lace in the one that you were talking about, but look, this other one, which you never talked about and you probably don't like, this won't have lace. Yeah, I just think it's interesting to have it as just a texture thing. So now what do I do? I'm not sure, because again, I changed my mind and I'm not 100% decided, but so I redid a little sketch. So basically this is like all the different sections, and with only the minis, so I will have this, right? And I decided that I will, with the big color, and this is not proportion or shape accurate, because if not, you would actually understand what I'm talking about, and that's no fun, right? At the end, once I'm finished with all the minis, I'm going to get the stitches of one end of the rectangle, one small end of the rectangle, and work something with the main color. I'm thinking I'm gonna make it into a point so that the overall shape of the wrap is a parallelogram thingy, you know, with the two opposite points. You know what a parallelogram is. I don't need to explain that. And then I wonder why people think I'm mean. Yeah, I think that would be nice to have like a thin end to the rectangle. I don't know what texture. I think it will be the same texture on both sides so that it sort of finishes nicely. And then once I'm done with one side, I'll do the other side, and then I will bind off, and I want to have a I-cord bind off in the big color all around the long edge as well, because I have some stitches placed on hole, stitches to pick up, and I think it would look very neat if I had an I-cord bind off everywhere in one color. Do you hate it? Do you prefer the older version? Yeah, it's just funny how, like, it's a long design, it's a patchy design, and so it's just fun for me to, because it's a design I'm working on in the evenings when I need something that's not too brain heavy, and so it just takes a bit of time, and I like to think about it, and I like to think about what texture should I do next, and in what way should I arrange my color for my sample. And it just means that the idea evolves, and I hope that none of you will be was really excited for the lace thingy and is now disappointed. But you know, like I said, so far I never had any people be really mad at me for a design choice. So, I mean, if that's the moment, well then go for it. Be mad. But yeah, I'm not sure, like I said, what kind of texture it will be at the end. I don't know. I think it needs to be something simple, but that maybe I will do some sort of ribbing, but at the same time I don't want to risk it shrinking. So I don't know. Maybe it can be a ribbing, but I can make it so that it's like a wide flat ribbing. That would be interesting, like a 6x2 or something, or even 8x2. I'll see. Yeah, I think flat ribbing is a good idea to finish it nicely. I don't know. Maybe I want something more exciting as well. Anyway, this will not have lace. I'm sorry if you wanted lace. And you're welcome if you did not want lace also on that design. But yeah, it's really fun to work on. This will be released in November, so that's why I'm taking my time with it. I'm letting it be refined in my head and changing ideas every 2 weeks. But yeah. It will be rather customizable. Like I said, like you use leftover, even in one color, it will be fun because you have the different textures. You won't, like, it will be customizable, but still require some planning, because if you want to change the texture because you don't like it or something, I think you would have to plan ahead, because then you would need to pick up less stitches and things so that the texture fits. But yeah, this is that, and I hope I didn't over confuse you with what's happening. To be honest, I'm a bit confused myself about this design, and I'm just really enjoying the process and trying to just let it be what it will be, but we'll see. The last work in progress I want to talk about is a new project that I'm working on. It's a test knit for another designer, and this is for Handmade Closet on Instagram. Her name's Olga. I don't know her last name, but I've been following her for a little while now. I really like her work. She makes a lot of color work. Not only she has interesting textured designs as well, but she makes a lot of color work, and I think she has a really distinct color work style. Like, she's not the only one making things in that style, but she often makes like ornamental like shapes that basically looks like a landscape, and it's like really nice soft shapes that are not really representing anything, that are not too harshly geometric. And she also has really fun color combinations most of the times. And the way she places her color work is also really fun. Like, she often has like a large yoke, not just a band, but a large yoke. And often there will be more on the body and on the sleeves. And it's really, really cool. That's why it's sort of like a painting of a landscape. I really like her style. And I saw that she posted a testing call for this design, and I immediately loved it. So I'm gonna be a bit contradictory, because this one, in fact, is rather illustrative, figurative, because it really resembles flowers. Well, it is flowers, and but I just thought it looked so fun, and it's flowers or suns or things. It's called Here Comes the Sun, and I really, really love it. I thought it was absolutely stunning. Basically, I've done the whole yoke. So this is the yoke. Why do I say yoke? Like, no, ew. Even though, kind of. No, I've done the yoke. That'd be funny, having a yoke. That's probably already done. Someone probably did the pun. But yeah, that's the yoke. I'm going to knit maybe a couple centimeters before splitting for the sleeves and body. And then at the end of the body, you repeat that like this, reverse this flower, but in opposite colors. So, and then you also have, which I thought was really beautiful, on the sleeves, sort of like around the elbow, you have a more geometric pattern. I think it's this motif, basically the white one with some little blips of colors in between, and it's really, really beautiful. And the sleeve thing, like, it's great. I think it's my favorite element of the design, even though I do love the flowery thingy as well. But yeah, this is what it looks like. Like I said, I absolutely love the picture that she posted when she made the testing call. So I applied, and I'm very happy and very grateful to be test knitting it. And yeah, it was really fun to knit. The thing is, so you have 3 colors per round in some places, and you also need to catch floats. So just FYI, if that's something that you hate. For me, the 3 colors thingy is just that I like to knit colorwork two-handed, and if I'm having a third color, I either need to use a thimble, but at the moment I can't. Because like I have a thing with my skin on my hands and it's a bit damaged, and the thimble hurts me. And I can't get my finger to hold 2 yarns. I get tensed easily, so I'd rather not. So I actually need to drop one color and pick out the other. It's not a bother, but it does slow me down. So that's why a lot of people say they don't like 3 color. It's not that it's difficult, it's just that it can break your rhythm depending on how you knit. It does it for me, but it's worth it. And here you also have to catch floats quite a while. But what I found is that unlike other big motif colorwork that I've done in the past, somehow this works really well, because when you catch floats, so I like to catch floats every 6, when it skips more than 6 stitches at that gauge. This is a 24 stitch per 10 centimeter gauge, and I'm using sport weight for it. So if it's more than 6 stitches, I like to catch a float. But when you catch floats in your knitting, you shouldn't catch it on the same place in 2 consecutive rounds, because then it makes, you can see it. Basically, it drags the stitch down, you can see the wrong color, and yeah, it's not nice. And so when you have a big patch of color like this, where you need to catch floats over several rows in the same area, you sort of need to plan ahead, and you need to say, okay, well, then I'm gonna catch float more here, then in the middle, and you sort of need to plan for this. And I thought that the way the shapes work here, loud, I'm gonna try and finish before they destroy the street again, and it's very loud. The way the shapes work here is you can still very easily get into a rhythm. Like, you just need to look at the rows above, basically, because sometimes you have to do twice the same thing. See, for example, here, where you had the 2 colors, the 3 colors, the 2 contrast one, you needed to have like 2 rows exactly the same. And I think that if you look at the rows that are coming, and you can sort of plan ahead. And once I did like once my repeat, I was like, okay, make this color catch here, this color catch here, this color. And it was very easy to get into an intuitive rhythm, which is not always the case. Some big motifs, some other colorworks that I've done, where you need to catch floats a lot, it's not rhythmic. You can't make it make sense. And this does. So this was really pleasant, because even though you had some elements that you'd think make the colorwork not flow, it actually did. So I really like this motif. It's really nice. And it was super fun to knit, super quick, and yeah, really, really enjoyable. I don't know what I'm going to say. So I finished that chart, and now I'm gonna work on the body. The yarn I'm using is Rerum Natura Ulysse, which I love. I had in my stash a sweater quantity of this, which is Cyprès. It's green. It's more like what you see on the sweater. And I also had some colors, because I have a lot of Ulysse in my stash, because I think it's a really cool yarn to swatch with when I'm experimenting things or making pattern submissions, because it works well in cables, it works well in colorwork. It's really, really a super useful yarn to have. So I have a bunch of colors. So I had the sweater quantity of the green, and I had some, this is poivre blanc, white pepper, and this is aster, which is like this lilac-y purple. And I ordered a skein of this greenish gold yellow, which is Genet. Yes, I ordered one skein, and it was like one ball. Paid more for the shipping than for the actual ball, but that's life. When you see a beautiful sweater and you're like, oh my god, I want it, and you're missing one color. I really like my colors. Basically, it's a variation on the designers. She has like a dark gray, slightly bluish main color, a white, a gold, and a pink. So basically I turned her gray into green and her pink into lilac. And I'm really proud of the result. It's like quite different than the colors I usually do, but I think it's really sweet and it works nicely. And it's such a cheerful motif. I really like it. And Ulysse is really great for color work because it's woolen spun, and woolen spun yarns, which are they're spun a bit messily. Basically, when you have fiber, you can comb it, and if you comb it, then it smoothes the fibers out. They're all in the same direction, and then you have a worsted spun, which is smooth, drapes more, has a bit more definition, and yeah. Whereas woolen spun, which is the step before that, has more air inside the fiber and it blooms more, and it's really an advantage for not everything, but for a lot of things, including colorwork. The main thing that I love with woolen spun is that you can use one yarn for so many different gauges. Like Ulysse, you can use it from 20, 21 stitches, even 19 if to like 35 stitches, and the fabric per 10 centimeter, and the fabric will be great. It's not going to be too stiff, and it's not going to be too loose on the extremes. And because like woolen spun just blooms and it takes the place that you give it. And this means that you can use Ulysse, which is 185 meters per 50 gram for DK weight patterns. And so you need to buy less yarn because you have more meterage per ball, per weight. And it makes really light garments because of this. It's more affordable. And it's great for colorwork because it sets in place really easily. And if you have tension issues, if you're a beginner, or if you're knitting a motif that tends to have tension irregularities because there's several colors, you need to catch floats, well, when blocking, it will just be really smoothed out and really, really nice. And that's why I really like using that yarn. It's specifically the Rerum Natura woolen spun. They're woolen spun, but they're not they don't exactly feel like, for example, whole super soft or some of the Norwegian wool. It's weird because it feels like it's an in-between, and it has the advantage of woolen spun, but it also have a little bit more definition. So I don't know how they spin it, but it's great. I think it's the Fonty French mill that spins it, and I really like it. And that's it. The pattern, like the test knit ends, I didn't even say, like you have some ribbing, you have some short rows, etc. The The test knit will end. How nice is it? See, do you like my project? Can you see anything? No. The test knit will end on April 6th. I think that's when the pattern is released. So, yeah, I need to continue. But I've been knitting this quite quickly over one weekend, so that's nice. Yeah. I need to try it on. I got gauge, obviously, because it's a test knit and I'm not a complete mean person. But I just want to try it on to see how long I want the body, because I'm not sure. I'm not sure. There are short rows in the back, I think. Is there? I thought I saw short rows in the back. But then I reread the pattern and they weren't there anymore. Maybe she deleted them. Or maybe I missed them on my second read. But I think there are short rows on the back to elongate the back. I would like to do that if there are. If not, I will just make the body my usual length, which is like 25 centimeter. But yeah. And that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching it. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you soon in another podcast. And I wish you a very happy end of the day, evening, whichever applies when you're watching this. And I will see you next time. Bye!